What is going on, Fantasy Alarm Nation? My name is Justin Fensterman, along with Matt Selz and Ryan Hallam. Time for another family meetup, the Family Times podcast here on FantasyAlarm.com. And guys, we got the NFL playoffs starting. Playoffs? That's right. Playoffs. It's time we all actually made our predictions up on the site right now on FantasyAlarm.com. You can see where we're all thinking when it comes to who we're thinking are going to win the Super Bowl, guys. And we can kind of just do the low-hanging fruit and talk about what teams we think are going to win. We could talk about a little playoff fantasy football strategy. I've already been in one draft too. And we could talk about which of these games happening this weekend we think could be very, very interesting. So, guys, let's start here. Who is going to win the Super Bowl? Selz, how you doing? I mean, NASCAR coming up in the next month. Daytona, we're ready to go here. But while we have a little bit of football on our minds, who are you thinking is going to win the Super Bowl?
So, I'm sorry, it's the team that Ryan wants to see the least, but I have the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl. I just think they can morph into anything they want to do, game plan wise. I think we've seen that over the last 4 years. If they want to run it, they can put their heads down and run it. They've got Pacheco there now. Jerick McKinnon's been impossible to stop the last 6 weeks. And their defense, look, when they play against tough opponents, their defense shows up. It's really when they play against craptastic teams that their defense goes to sleep. So I have the Chiefs winning. I don't think it's going to be an easy road, right? I think they're going to have to go through, obviously, either Buffalo or Cincinnati, both of whom have posed challenges to them in the last few years. And then I have the Niners making it from the NFC. I just think that defense is way too good. Brock Purdy doesn't have to do very much. He just has to not turn the ball over. But I have the Chiefs winning in what would be a rematch from when they won a few years ago. So Chiefs-Niners for me.
Ryan, what's going on with you, man? I'm seeing some beef in the Survivor world between, I guess there's always a beef between Parvati and Sandra to see who like the baddest person is on Survivor or whatever it is, or the trickiest. I keep seeing this trend, Ryan. It's NFL playoff time.
Yeah, the Queens are arguing there, which is fine. Neither one of them has played, meaningful in quite a while, but I'm going to stick with Selz, and, no shock here. I'm going to say the 49ers are making the Super Bowl. Not only is the defense all that good, but, I mean, let's be honest. Outside of Philadelphia, I don't think there's a lot of teams there that scare too many people. I think we all feel like Minnesota's kind of paper. Tom Brady's 80 years old. Dak Prescott, the Cowboys got blown out by Washington last week. And Jalen Hurts, let's face it, is not 100%. Philly scares me, sure, but I'm seeing things that are very lucky that Hurts has another week off to heal. So I think his injury might be worse than they're letting on. I'm going to go with Buffalo for two reasons. Matt's right about the Chiefs, but they were beaten by, let's be honest, they should have been beaten twice in the playoffs last year. Buffalo had them dead to rights, and then Cincinnati knocked them off. So I think two teams that they have to go through have either beaten them or came really, really, really close to beating them. So I feel like they're less unbeatable than they've been in the past few years. So I'm going to go Buffalo riding high off of the emotion of DeMar Hamlin and all that. They'll carry that to the Super Bowl.
For me, I thought about this a bit. You were talking about the Eagles before. I think the Eagles are going to end up coming out of their side. I know that Jalen Hurts, the injury is a concern, but like you also outlined, they've got one more week to rest a little bit. Also was shaking off the rust last time. So with that, I'm going to take the Buffalo Bills as well with you, Ryan. I'm thinking that they're going to win. I mean, they have great defense. Their offense is solid too. When it comes down to Josh Allen, what he could do not only with the throwing, but also with running the football himself, they've got a lot of options that they could go through. This game against Miami is going to be a joke. Tua's already out. Skylar Thompson, it's looking like, is going to start. And this line is going up and up and up in this one here. So I don't think they're even going to be really challenged, which I hope doesn't take them out of any kind of mental toughness that they're having. All of a sudden, they have an easy matchup, and then maybe they go soft a little bit, or they think, oh, that was easy, and then they think down the road that they can't handle it, that they're not going to be able to win all of a sudden because they've lost their competitive edge. With a 13-point spread in this one, I don't see Miami really challenging them, and I think that Buffalo's going to win the Super Bowl. I do worry about the Chiefs, of course, hoping to see them face off here. The Bengals, I've thought about that. I'm not as much into the Bengals. I did a playoff draft. I didn't take any Bengals, and this one there are many different formats you could do. There's like set them and leave them. There's the one and done here. We got our one and done. But when it comes to set them and leave them and everything like that, there are a few teams that I just really didn't go after, and that was one of them was the Bengals there. So I'm thinking that it's going to be Bills and the Eagles in the Super Bowl with Buffalo winning. So we got 2 for Buffalo here.
Cincinnati too hot for you right now coming to the playoffs?
I just feel like Buffalo could do a little bit more. That's why. And even Kansas City as well. So I see this as the AFC as a 2-team race. And as much as I want to believe in the Chargers, I think that the Chargers will win one game. Then that's it for them.
They are a perfect 50-50 odds right now against, and I know obviously everybody theoretically has a 50-50 shot at winning. There's only 2 teams in a game, right? But if you look at like the algorithms or the Steve Kornacki's thing on Sunday night, the only game in the wild card round that was a 50-50 draw was the Chargers-Jags, and I just think that the Chargers pass defense and actually run defense, like the Chargers defense hasn't been good enough to stop the now burgeoning Jaguars offense. And let's not forget that Doug Peterson knows how to coach a quirky offense to a Super Bowl win. He did it with Philadelphia. So all of those folks concerned that we, missed out on the Bills Bengals, if they both win this week, we get a rematch, right? I mean, it's the 2-3 would match up in the divisional round. So there is that. I get what you're saying about the emotion of DeMar. My only question is, does that get exhausting after a little while? Like just being in that emotional space can just drain players sometimes. I know Boston used the marathon bombing to, carry them through the season and win the World Series that year. And it was good news again today. What?
It could work the other way too. It could.
It can. Yes, for sure. And we got more good news today. This is Wednesday. That Damar Hamlin was released from the Buffalo hospital that he was in. He transferred from the Cincinnati one to the Buffalo one. So that's good news again. I don't know. I just think I'm concerned about the lack of a run game for both Cincinnati and Buffalo right now. I know that sounds weird talking about the Chiefs, but the Chiefs have Pacheco. They've got a few different weapons they can use and run. If you can slow down Josh Allen's run game and lock up Diggs, it might be tough for them. So it's about as wide open as we've seen the playoffs be in a little while, I feel like. At least for the AFC. The NFC, I'm with you. I think it's Niners, maybe the Eagles. I'm not concerned about Dallas. I'm just not. I'm sorry. They haven't won a playoff game since, 96? So, I'm not that concerned. It was fun, by the way, watching the Lions knock the Packers out of the playoffs on their home field. Do you guys think Rodgers retires?
I kind of feel like he's going to read the tea leaves of what people think he should do and do the opposite. I feel like he's become like a WWE heel and just is going to do whatever he can to piss people off.
My God, what's he doing? What is Rodgers doing?
It doesn't. I mean, on another point, it's completely separate from what I just said. It doesn't seem like he's enjoying it anymore, I will say. It seems like he's just bitches about stuff every week. He never looks happy on the field. Complains all the time. So I don't know if it's, the team is still good. They had a chance. They should have been better than they were. So I don't know that it's, a lack of ability to win, but I don't know. It just doesn't seem like he's enjoying playing anymore. So I kind of think he's going to retire, but he went out arm in arm with Randall Cobb. There was a thing where Jameson Williams won his jersey and said he was keeping it, although I don't know why he'd trade with Jameson Williams at this point, but there seems to be little, subtle signs that this might be it for him, but I think he's got more in the tank than Tom Brady does, but I don't know. It just seems like he's over it.
I will say that his post-game interview in Week 17 was the most humble Aaron Rodgers I've heard in a very long time, and he was, praising the defense and how they turned their season around and whatnot. It was not just all him. In fact, he basically never praised himself, which was the first time in a very long time I've seen that. So that was an interesting swap from the Rodgers we've come to know, and some people love. Me, not one of them.
Green Bay. That's it.
You think he's gonna retire?
Man, I want him to retire. He's a distraction at this point. He's done a lot of great things in his career. And I just feel like if you think about him, how he was viewed before the last couple of years, it's very different. And I feel like now with what he's got without that Devontae Adams security blanket, we really saw kind of what he has, what he's about. And I'm done with him. And I think the Packers, honestly, should start to think about moving forward a bit. You have to. You have Jordan Love sitting there. You got to start getting this guy some reps here. And you want him having reps with these young receivers. And that's something I'm very encouraged about. I just don't know if it's Aaron Rodgers that's going to be the guy that's going to lead them. I think with this team, they have an opportunity now with some reps under their receivers' belts. They can work with Jordan Love. They can grow together, and you can start building. I don't want to say any kind of dynasty or anything like that, but you can build a team that can stay interlocked for a good 6-7 years.
The weird thing to me about this and Jordan Love is this is his third year, so you have one more year and then that fifth year option, and you have no idea what you have from him at this point. So if Rodgers comes back, what are you, 4 years into Jordan Love's career, and you have no. All right, he came in and threw one touchdown pass to Christian Watson, which was like a 5-yard slant that he took the distance. Like, are you going to go into knowing whether you're going to pick up this option in his fifth year and he's never been on the field? So it kind of almost seems like they have to Esther get off the pot this year, and I believe this is his fourth year, to know whether there's – I mean, what are they going to do, draft somebody and start again? I mean, you feel like kind of this is what Green Bay did with Rodgers, right? He sat for, 3 years, 3 years, and then came in. So is that what they're doing again, or did they just completely whip on his face?
They didn't have the fifth-year option, like the rookie – pay scale when they drafted Rodgers, right? That was still I'm going to sign the number one pick is going to get $755 million every year or something.
Thanks, right? Alex Smith. Yes.
Well, he was wasn't even like Sam Bradford got an absolute crap ton of money when he got drafted, and then it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And
what about Jamarcus Russell?
Ooh. Ryan Leaf. Ooh.
Yeah.
So, yes, they did have Rodgers sit for 4 years under Favre, but they also didn't have a, crap or get off the pot moment with Rodgers like they do with Love. I wouldn't be surprised if they draft a quarterback.
Another one. Wow.
Look, if they were sold on Jordan Love, they would have pulled the trigger on a move to get rid of Aaron Rodgers. They pulled the trigger to get Devontae Adams out of town, right? And if you were sold on Jordan Love, who is markedly cheaper than Aaron Rodgers and comes with a whole lot less baggage, why wouldn't you have pulled? You're telling me you wouldn't have accepted the Broncos' alleged deal for Rodgers? You wouldn't have tried to ship him somewhere and say, look, we're going to sink or swim with Love? I don't think they're sold on him.
My only rebuttal to that, and this is purely conjecture, is that I still think that they thought they had a chance to win with him, and he is still wildly popular in Green Bay, from at least from what I see on Twitter. Okay. The only people who ever have anything nice to say about Aaron Rodgers are people who are in Green Bay. So maybe that's why
people say nice things about Brett Favre after he's been accused of robbing the poor. So that's a pretty biased fan base.
We're gonna have to ask the reasonable one, Kevin Tompkins, about this.
That is a good. That's a.
And Tara Roberts, I'm pretty sure, is a Packers fan.
I thought she's a Cowboys fan. No.
Pretty sure she's a Green Bay. She's one of the two.
I'm not sure.
Well, everybody, it seems like half of our staff.
Oh my God, yeah. Yes.
Ridiculous.
But I don't know. I don't know where the Packers go from here, but it's going to be a very interesting quarterback offseason.
Yeah, there's like 10 that could be on the move.
I think Jared Goff stays in Detroit.
Me too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they let him go. I have no idea what the Rams do.
I mean, I think Stafford's coming back. I just don't know about McVay. It seems like now that McVay's just letting his coaches all go, or at least giving them the opportunity. I mean, he almost walked away last year.
Retires.
I do too.
He made comments about walking away this year again.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't he go to TV, get paid more money, and not have to deal with the stress of having to cobble together a very thin roster?
Well, look, he just won a Super Bowl, and he probably loves coaching.
Does he?
You would think, right?
The only thing, I mean, the team doesn't have a first-round draft pick until Matt Sells' daughter goes to college. And, Stafford's getting older. We saw one injury derail the entire team. They have all these guys locked up to these giant contracts. I don't know that they can do much of anything.
To start the year, I don't think. Right?
So, I mean, I think if now's the time, if he's going to do it, this team is certainly not on the rise.
Like, they built for the Super Bowl in 2021, and they won it. He's got nothing left to prove in terms of, like, I know there's multiple Super Bowls and whatever, but the dude's like 36 years old and has nothing left to prove.
He could always go back. That's the thing,
right?
Being as young as he is.
And with the contracts these guys are getting to be on TV now, whew,
seriously,
I would do it.
You don't think, like, I would sit there and watch Peyton Manning and Sean McVay just sit there and talk about offensive schemes for like an hour and a half every Sunday. Like, I just would. Those two are geniuses when it comes to that. They can articulate it better than just about anybody else. I don't think he comes back. I don't think Aaron Donald comes back. I don't know what they do with the... I frankly would be surprised at this point if Stafford comes back.
Do you think he's going to go somewhere else, or do you think he's retiring?
I think he retires.
Okay. The only thing, and I thought that too, I didn't think he's... I don't know if it was week 17. One of the way too many games, the Rams were a standalone game. I remember them saying that he said he was planning on coming back, but obviously things can change. And that
my guess is if
he's an Iron Man, he doesn't ever want to quit.
You mess with your neck and
degenerative back thing.
So was his neck.
He hurt his back and he didn't want to sit. He fought. There was a few years ago where he was fighting everyone to play. And I forget if they let him sit one game and then they brought him back. He didn't he not miss a game for a bit or something like that?
Like a broken back.
I know he took shot after shot in Detroit and kept playing, but
yes, he did. Calvin Johnson said, "F that." He's like, "Nah, I'm still playing."
Like, I honestly think if McVay retires, then Stafford's not coming back.
Very possible.
By the way, speaking of the Lions, who we've brought up before, I mean, Jamal Williams with getting the record with the 2 scores there, and that post-game interview, said chills up my spine a bit, because at first he was crying and very emotional, snapped right out of that and said, "Don't doubt Detroit."
Yeah, I mean, it turns out his great-grandfather died like a week before the game, and that's who he plays football for, apparently. So, but I have mixed emotions about Jamal Williams replacing Barry Sanders in the record books, to be to be perfectly honest. I mean, I don't think Jamal Williams is as bad as Howard Bender does with the nickname of Jamawful. But it's Barry Sanders, man. Like, it's like if like Tony Pollard comes through and breaks Emmitt Smith's rushing record for the Cowboys and then just like doesn't do anything.
I was talking with Ronas about this, though, guys. I mean, aren't these records kind of pointless now because you got different amount of games and stuff like that too? Aren't they becoming less relevant? I know we like to see milestones get broken, especially in baseball, but for football, with adding the extra game, doesn't it make these records mean a little bit less?
I don't know. They had this debate in baseball in like the early 60s when they went from 156 to 162.
Of course.
Maris's home run record had an asterisk next to it for like, I don't know, 2-3 decades, because it was marked as 162 instead of Ruth's 156. I don't know. So does that mean we have to hold every record for when the league started and they only had 8 teams in the league? Like, does that mean Jim Brown's rushing record is untouchable because it was only over the course of 12 games? Like,
it's hard to categorize it differently, too. You can't have 3 different era Hall of Fames, right?
Yeah, I think it's just the name values. Barry Sanders, like when you think of the Lions, you think of Barry Sanders. So for Jamal Williams, who's kind of, I'll be nice and call him a journeyman.
What you guys are saying. It's like when our kids one day go, wow, who holds the single season rushing touchdown record? And you're thinking, wow, Barry Sanders, here's the story. Here's Jamal Williams there, hung with Aaron Rodgers for a few years. In a week 16 back in 2018, he won fantasy championships. And oh yeah, he holds this amazing record too.
I mean, it comes down to like, if I say 755, everybody knows it's Hank Aaron's home run total, right? If I say 762, you have to think about the fact that it's Barry Bonds, and that number doesn't really click yet, even though it's been there for what, like a decade at this point. So it just goes to like what Ryan was saying, like name value, right? It's Barry Sanders. You think of the Lions, it's the first guy you think of.
If DJ Chark breaks any of Calvin Johnson's records, then we have to wipe the slate clean with the Lions and start over.
It'll be Jameson Williams next year doing something.
Maybe.
Crazy.
Maybe. But that's an awfully hard record to break. I once remember watching Sports Science, and they said Calvin Johnson had a catch radius of basically the inside of a 2-car garage.
I miss him.
Yeah, he was amazing.
Watching him play. Didn't he make one bonehead move though, where he was running to the end zone and he threw the ball to the back of the end zone or something? He thought he had already crossed the line and everything, and
Probably.
then he didn't.
It seems like every receiver misjudges where the line is.
Right. Something happened, I feel like, with that at one point. By the way, what were you saying, Ryan?
I was going to say, speaking of which, Saturday night, didn't some Titans guy running with the ball just fling it backwards over his head or forwards over his head?
Yeah, Treylon Burks.
What is going on lately? Between that and the friggin' Patriots play from a few weeks ago, has everyone lost their mind? Just go down. What is going on?
They're all watching Little Giants before the game.
Yeah, the annexation of Puerto Rico is taking hold here. Like,
I was watching it. I was like, what are you thinking about? Throwing it blindly over your head across the field?
Yeah. Hey, we can say it for what it is. Rookie mistake.
Maybe he learned it from Bobby Petrino.
Learned it from Jacoby Myers. I mean, at least his was, you could see where he was throwing it.
That was terrible. The way he did that was terrible. I get it was like the end, but at the same time.
It's like a 45-yard pass.
Yeah, I did not understand that.
Anyway, I don't know. I felt the need to bring that up.
Yes. By the way, I feel the need to bring this up. With what we've seen from Cam Akers down the stretch, how much it ups his fantasy value now going into next year. Let's not forget that this guy was a 4th-round drafted player this past year. What he's done these last, 4 to 5 weeks here probably puts him back in that top 6-round range, fortunately, unfortunately.
I guess it all depends on if everything Matt has foretold comes true. I mean, if Stafford's gone, Kupp's not ready, McVay's gone, and his team is kind of pared down, I don't know. I mean, if they bring
still sucks.
Yeah, if they bring the band back together, and I would say use a draft pick on an offensive lineman, but they don't have one. But if they make some improvements, I'm not sure with what money. Possibly, he certainly, like you said, what he's done gets him back in the conversation. But we have to see what happens to the Rams. Doesn't seem like Selz doesn't matter. He's not going after him.
I'm not. As a guy who bought him in an auction this year, and he absolutely just sucked. Didn't even see the field for half the games. Didn't do anything when he was on the field because, at that point, the Rams season was toast. I'm sorry, but there are so many. This year proved that the running back position is actually a lot deeper than people thought. So why in the hell would I go back to him?
Yeah, no, I don't even. It's weird after this season.
Speaking of depth, why is there Nick Chubb hate? Why am I being told not to draft Nick Chubb in the first round?
It's the same debate every year with him. It's most think that he's all ground game. And if he's not hitting the end zone, great, 77 yards, gets you 7.7. You know, that's how most people think when they think of him.
Okay. Through the last 4 years, which doesn't include his rookie year, he has averaged no fewer than 16 points a game for 4 straight years. You're not going to take that?
The only thing that I saw was like, oh, well, they'll throw more with Watson next year. Well, great. So then the defenses can't put 8 in the box like they've been doing on him for the last 4 years. I mean, there's nothing wrong. A balanced offense doesn't mean the running back is useless.
Yeah, didn't people still draft Houston's running backs when Watson was there? I mean, none of them were like elite, but come on. You can't tell me the guy who finished no worse than RB5 in any scoring system this year is, oh, don't draft him because there's wide receiver. If he played wide receiver, he'd be the 5th ranked wide receiver. You're telling me you're not going to draft that guy in the first round?
I mean, I think this podcast is very pro Nick Chubb. All 3 of us.
Yep. I mean, by the way, I'm pro Derrick Henry too.
Me too.
I feel like people also try to find reasons to not like Derrick Henry. I'm sorry, that's not going to be me.
Like, I guess it comes down to whether you want like explosive ceiling versus solid floor. But to me, you win to go with our bud Bob Lung, you win with consistency.
Right.
You know how my team was the number 1 scoring team in my league this year? It consistently scored the most points.
Right.
Because I had consistent players. I had top 10 dudes in their positions. You know why? Because I drafted dudes who consistently score well.
I like going more consistency early and then maybe swinging a little bit by the time we hit the 8th, 9th, 10th round. And especially with that comes some of these rookies, especially this year too, with the amount of wide receivers that we had at that point.
Yeah, I mean, like, everybody's going, oh, Tony Pollard should be a first-round pick and Nick Chubb should be a second-round. Why? Are we kidding me here? Like, what did I get? Tony Pollard had a good year, and he's a Pro Bowl running back. Congratulations. And he did it because Zeke wasn't featured as much. But Zeke also showed he wasn't quite as dead as everybody thought he was. And if you're trying to say, well, Pollard is more explosive, why? It's 1 year. 1 year. Chubb's done it for 4.
Are people really talking about Pollard as a first-round pick?
Yes. I've seen it. They're like, I would draft Tony Pollard in the first round.
Are these the same people that are saying that the Seahawks are going to upset the 49ers this weekend?
I mean, as I put it, the rain would have to be so hard that they literally lose power at Levi Stadium and the field floods to the point where they can't play it. And then San Francisco would have to be blocked from taking off to go play the game in Seattle because the FAA has another outage. Like, that's literally the only way that Seattle is beating San Francisco this weekend.
Yeah. Our buddy Andrew Cooper from the site saying on Better Sports Network earlier, I was, man, listen, I know this is an industry of hot takes and everything like that. And if he's right, he's right. If he knows something, I don't see it, though. I just don't see it. San Francisco's defense is staunch for that reason. Look at what they've done, considering all they've gone through on the offensive end. That defense is threatening. Okay, you stop Ken Walker, you rattle Geno Smith, you're done. That's pretty much. I know Walker had a good game last time out against them, but still, I can't. There are certain things where, okay, maybe you see the upset. This is one of those games I just can't see it.
They still lost by they got closer in the last regular season game, and they still lost by 8.
And I believe it was a late score. I remember the outcome was never really in jeopardy.
No, it was.
And he had 12 carries for 47 yards last time against him, so it wasn't that good of a game.
Yeah. By the way, can we start giving props to Pete Carroll for being a better coach than everybody gives him credit for?
I hate him, but okay.
Like, Geno Smith is QB6 in fantasy? Like, really? Like, perhaps it was Pete Carroll that was winning all them games in Seattle and not Danger Russ because he can't even equal the number of bathrooms in his house. Like, I don't know, man. I don't want to give too much credit to Pete Carroll because he coached for the Pats and then he coached the era of USC that I hate. But maybe he's just a tad bit better than anybody wants to actually give him credit for.
No, he's a fine coach and everything, and people remember the Super Bowl faux pas that he made and everything, not letting Lynch run in the football there. You're right on the goal line, pretty much. You decide to throw it. But besides that, I think he's been fine. I think that the players like him, good emotional leader. I think that's something he's a good guy to have in the locker room. So, I mean, I don't think that there are too many. Are there a lot of detractors for Pete Carroll? By the way, Ryan, with what you were saying, you were right with Walker on the ground. He didn't do too much. He did catch a few passes and was coming off the injury. That salvaged his fantasy game a little bit. So with lowering the bar. So you're right. Because I was thinking, I thought he had over 100 yards. I was thinking of another matchup. He did have those 5 grabs, though, that somewhat salvaged his fantasy week. Did nothing on them. That was my bad.
The only negative I'll say about Pete Carroll is do not listen to his injury updates because he will always compensate for his players. This guy's looking really good. There's still a chance he's not going to play on Sunday.
For sure. But, like, there were people that had slated Seattle for the number 1 pick in the draft.
Oh, absolutely. Most people did. I mean, I thought most people thought Drew Lock was going to be the quarterback, too. Like, they looked horrific coming into the year. Penny outperformed, and then Walker picked it right up, and Geno Smith played better than anyone could thought. And their young defense got better as the year went on. They ended up with 2 really good corners. I think the rebuild in Seattle has certainly hit the accelerator for sure.
And they have the 3rd pick in the draft now because of Denver? 3rd or 4th?
Like that. Yeah. So everything went well for them this year for sure.
But they were easily picked to be the worst team in the NFC or NFC West.
Oh, yeah.
Easily. It was widespread that everybody's like, oh, pencil Seattle in for sucking, and then the Rams.
In fantasy, I didn't care how far Tyler Lockett was going to drop. I was not going after him. And for those that went in on him,
reduced DK Metcalf.
Well, DK Metcalf to me, he was a 4th round pick, and I wasn't feeling it with that. Especially
I'm just saying Lockett outscored him fantasy wise.
Right.
So I don't know. I just wanted to toss that out there.
Yeah. Pete Carroll. And all the gum that he chews, we like that as well. Let's hit the family table, guys. We each bring one thing to that family table here. We've discussed a lot of even adding in some offseason talk as well for some of the teams that are done with their season here. So, Selz, what are you bringing to the table this week?
What I'm bringing to the table is a tweet that I saw earlier this morning that I actually sent to Ryan. It's from the Arlington Department of Environmental Services, as in Arlington, Virginia. It says, quote, if they can fit in the service truck, discarded items like mattresses and furniture can be left curbside for regular collection or scouting by the Nationals. They're taking rim shots. That is a trash service taking a rim shot at the local Major League Baseball team. It is time for local writers to start building your teams up. The whole rest of the world is there to tear them down. Trust me, there's enough people crapping all over the Nats like the rest of the NL East, right? Why you got to make rim shots out of your local team and then go, oh, we didn't sell any tickets. I wonder why nobody cares about our team. I wonder why nobody knows our current players. It's because all you beat writers and companies that want to take rim shots at them are all focused on the guys that are no longer there. Oh, yeah, we lost Trey Turner. We lost Bryce Harper. We lost Max Scherzer. We lost Rendon. That all happened like 3 years ago. Get over it, right? Yes. Is it going to be a rough year for the Nats? Sure. But how about we focus on the positives that are happening, like the, top 10 farm system they've got. They've got a bunch of good young players. Like, this isn't just Nats specific. I've seen a ton of companies taking rim shots at their local teams, and then they sit there later on and go, oh, gee, I wonder why our advertising didn't work when we tied it to the team that we insulted 6 months ago. Like, same thing F1 is doing. F1 wants to grow their footprint in the U.S., and all they can do is sit there and go, U.S. drivers can't do it because they're not good enough. The U.S. Racing is small operations. Yeah, have you been to Indianapolis Motor Speedway? It's not a small operation. You people raced there like 20 years ago. You let your drivers race there too in the Indy 500, but it's a small operation now. If it's so small, why are there 3 U.S. Grand Prix on the F1 schedule next year? So, like, why are these brands hell-bent on crapping on teams and markets that they want to advertise in and then go, oh, I wonder why we're not getting any traction.
They think they're getting traction by having us all talk about it, like you are right here. They suckered you in.
I mean, it's elitism is what it is. Like, nobody in the U.S. is happy about what the F1 is saying, about what FIA is saying right now. I've not seen a single positive comment from anybody in the F1 world on Twitter about what the FIA said about, oh, we won't let Andretti and Cadillac join because they're small operations. Okay, well, y'all find more creative ways to waste $500 million a year than the U.S. government. So, like, you know, I'm just saying, it's not a great trend to sit there and crap on the people you want to invest in and then wonder why they're not investing in you.
Sure, I think that, I mean, you're right with local companies, but also local writers, which you referenced before. I think for a long, long time, they were accused of the other way, of writing being too favorable towards their teams and not being honest about the teams when they're bad and always trying to bring out the good. But I feel like then it, like maybe 15, 20 years ago, it was the other way and they wanted both sides of the story.
I mean, sure, but isn't it the job of the local teams to, like, the local writers and journalists to pump up the fan base?
Pump up the fan base, yeah, but if you can't try to sell a false bill of goods.
I'm not saying the Nats writers and companies should be, oh, this is going to be a World Series team. Clearly nobody thinks that. But when you sit there and you go, there's nobody on this team worth a damn, you may as well scout old, dirty, broken-ass mattresses on the side of the road. That doesn't help either. Like, there has got to be somewhere in the middle.
Like, where's Ronnie Belliard right now? The Nook
Joey Meneses set team records for home runs in plate appearances and had a remarkable rookie year last year, and nobody gives a crap. Nobody cares.
I think it's the beat writers don't have any, skin in the game. Really, their job is going to be there whether the team is good or the team is bad. I understand clearly they'll sell more newspapers or clicks or whatever, but I think people, and I guess it was almost going to kind of lean into, I was coming in with like, don't take people, people take themselves too seriously or have a little more fun. Like, I feel like they were feeling like their job is also to entertain as well as inform.
I mean, sure, but it's also a self-fulfilling prophecy because these same beat writers will then turn around and go, why aren't we selling papers? Well, because people don't want to sit there and pay for something that's going to trash something they don't want to be trashed. And then your paper or your network can't offer as much money for the ratings because nobody watches the team because you told everybody they suck. And then you complain about no money for the team because TV deals aren't there and ratings are down. And then you can't pay. Like, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, I'm not saying, oh, the Nats are going to win the World Series or the Pirates for Colby are going to win the World Series, right? But, like...
Or Colby.
It just... There's a happy medium between, oh, the 2023 Mets are going to win 162 games and all this crap versus the Nats are a throwaway mattress on the side of the road. There's got to be a happy medium somewhere.
Sure. You want to keep the fan base encouraged because you still have to sell tickets. You're right about that. And
right. Otherwise you turn into the Oakland A's.
Right. So you're right about that. That I agree with you on. You got to have tickets. But what I was saying before is the reason why beat writers are more like that. They're more vicious now because they were too rah-rah beforehand back in the 70s and 80s and even the early 90s. And then people wanted the truth. When your team's doing bad and you're writing nothing but positivity there, who wants to read that kind of garbage,
I want to know I want to meet Colby Conway's parents that allowed him to be a Texans fan and a Pirates fan. Like, how do you not try to talk your kid out of that?
I don't know. Freeland's got some pretty weird teams too, man.
I'll say this, though, when it comes to Colby, I've never had a more exciting conversation about Lamar Miller than I did with Colby Conway in Canton, Ohio. He gets you excited about anything, especially Lamar Miller, having him on your fantasy team 4 to 5 years ago. Ryan, what are you bringing to the table?
I was just kind of, like I said, piggybacking, I don't know. Just and this has nothing to do with you, Matt, in this conversation you just had, but I think we all need to laugh a little more in our lives. And, your attitude is what you make it. Try to have some fun in your life. I have nothing as usual for the family table. I was just thinking about this earlier.
That's a good piece of advice, though.
Yeah, but I feel like I've used it like 4 times this year. Well, not this year.
One of these days, he's going to bring always be prepared as his thing for the family table, and he's not going to be prepared. That's going to be his cop-out.
I don't have any fantasy games going. I have no brackets going. All my usual self-promotion is gone by the wayside at the moment.
Always be prepared. Don't be like me where I have nothing prepared right there.
Right. I did sit for the last hour trying to think of something, and I really I don't know. I came up with nothing.
I got something then. And it's something that I've said before, too, that I'm going to say. But now that we've experienced it, I'm going to say it again. How you all feeling out there that play fantasy football season long in Week 18? You feeling awesome? You feeling great after this past weekend? Stand by your high ground. Stand by your morals. You don't end anything before it's over. Keep enjoying that. Because I bet, and thank goodness I was not in any season-long leagues from Week 18. That sucked to deal with. That sucked to analyze. It sucked to talk about. Different players out every freaking day. And this is just me talking about it on shows and writing about it in content. How are you supposed to write content? Are the Giants resting their starters? Dable says no. They're saying yes. Dable says no. Richie James goes into the stock watch. How do you all feel right now about playing Week 18? It sucks.
By the way, I was dead wrong. I said they were going to play their starters last week. I was wrong. They didn't.
By the way, why were the Chiefs playing Patty Mahomes when the game was over and they had 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter? That's what Chad Henne's for, man. Why you got your meal ticket out there when the game you're up by 28 points? What are we doing?
What are we doing? What are we doing playing Week 18?
I will tell you the only thing it didn't suck for is I had to do data entry for the snaps and the red zone plays and whatever. Not very many of those happened.
Oh, man.
What I was disappointed in was that the 11-6 score of the Dolphins-Jets game was not a scoregami. I was disappointed in that.
Scoregami. Yeah,
it was bad.
For those of you that don't know, scoregamis are the first time that a score has happened in any game in any particular sport. The 11-6 score apparently happened in January of 2000 in a playoff game, apparently.
I thought you were playing off of origami.
No, it's literally called scoregami. There are.
Oh, I thought you just made that up on the spot. I was
there's an NFL scoregami Twitter account that I follow that tells you this game is this at halftime. It's got an X% chance of finishing as a scoregami. Here's the most realistic one, right? There's also ones for baseball. That's a little more unusual at this point because there's just a lot of baseball games. But yeah, it's kind of, there's basketball. Yeah.
Nice. Well, he is the Schwab, a.k.a. Matt Selz. Give him a follow on Twitter at the Selzman. He is Ryan Hallam. Give him a follow at Fighting Chance. Can't wait for that next season of Survivor, Ryan. I'm already ready to roll here. I'm Justin Fensterman. Follow me at Fensty Sports. And as we always say after every episode, this family that sticks together wins together.